Okay, now let's get into our NBA Finals predictions. We've got the Dallas Mavericks taking on the Boston Celtics. Massive series up ahead. Rick, what are your initial thoughts on this series?
Finally, we've got a competitive NBA Finals. Last year, I think most people said the Nuggets should either sweep or maybe Miami take a game, and that was held to be true. The Nuggets won in 5. And then I think 2022 was a fairly competitive series, actually. Celtics and Warriors. I think the Celtics were the favorites that series, and the Warriors behind Steph, who just went absolutely insane that finals, took that one. But this NBA Finals, I'm looking forward to it a lot. There's so much. There's so many little storylines going into this. Obviously, you've got Kyrie going back to Boston. And when he played Boston in the Brooklyn Nets 2 years ago, he got absolutely booed out the building. And I don't know if he actually handled it well at the time. I think he's a great player. It obviously doesn't get to him, but with that Boston crowd, they're all a bunch of racist pricks anyway.
Yeah, he was stomping on Lucky as he was going off the court when he was with Brooklyn.
Yeah,
So
he got fined for throwing the finger. I think Boston, they'll up it to another level now. It's the NBA Finals. But I think Kyrie, he's matured over the last couple of years. I think he's even said that himself, he's just grown as a person. So I think he'll handle that a lot better. And then you've obviously got Porzingis, who used to play for Dallas. When they acquired him from New York, a lot of the talk was Luka and Porzingis going to be the next sort of duo. They're European. They'll basically just be two peas in a pod in terms of the way they play and their play style. But that wasn't to be, and Luka and Porzingis had a lot of tension going on off court. They didn't seem to get along as well, and Porzingis actually mentioned that in JJ Redick's podcast. So that will also be a super interesting series, and I think Porzingis is a lot better now than obviously what he was 2-3 years ago.
Well, they just wanted to throw him in the corner. He was literally told, just run to the corner and sit there and turn into just a straight-up, spot-up shooter. But his game's got a lot more to that, I think.
100%.
And the Celtics, they haven't really missed him these playoffs. They've only lost one or two games this year.
Yeah, only 2 games in the playoffs. I think they lost 14 games in the regular season or something like that. So they've by far been the best team from start to finish up until now in the NBA. And I would say Dallas probably the best team since the trade deadline, both defensively and offensively. You've got Luka. I think right now him and Jokic are the 2 best offensive players in the league. If you blitz Luka, he's probably the best passer, second best passer in the league behind maybe Jokic. LeBron in his prime, I don't know, that's arguable, but Luka's one of the best passers in the league. So if you blitz him, he's just going to find the open man. And if you play in a drop coverage, which is what the Timberwolves tried doing with Rudy, he will just eat you alive. He'll just get into his mid-range, get into his bag. His floater game is just OP. And then you've obviously got his lobs. You've got Daniel Gafford running the lane. So yeah, Luka's probably the most unguardable player in the league right now, or that's left. You can only really slow him down. You can't actually stop him. So yeah, that's going to be super interesting. And yeah, like I said, Kyrie as well. He's proven in the NBA Finals, he can hang, and he hit arguably the most iconic shot in Finals history. In 2016. So having that second scoring threat when Luka's not playing as well with Kyrie is massive.
Yeah, I think the 2 key moves that Dallas made at the trade deadline of PJ Washington and bringing in Daniel Gafford as well has been huge for them. It's really allowed them to transform defensively. They were a bit of a joke last year. Remember, they traded for Kyrie, only played the last 10 games they lost a ridiculous amount of them, maybe 8 of them in the regular season last year. And nobody really knew what they were going to get from Dallas moving forward into this year. But I think, Kyrie and Luka, there's been a lot of arguments thrown out there, and it's probably got some validity behind it that they're the best offensive backcourt of all time. yeah, you've got Steph and Clay, who are definitely up there and probably my best. But what Kyrie and Luka are doing at the moment is insane. They had those 30-point, both of them had 30-point games last series and stuff. And it's just like the shots they want, the shots they're being forced into taking are the shots that they feel comfortable with taking. Like all those step backs off the dribble, left, right, Kyrie finishing with his other hand. He's comfortable doing
But like
that.
they practice that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like you can say, "Oh, that's a tough shot," or "That's a terrible shot."
No, they want
but
to take that.
They
Yeah.
practice that. They practice that shot like every day. They've been practicing those shots for hours. Like for them, it's not a bad shot, which is absolutely cool. Yeah, like I think they are the best all time. Is a bit of a stretch just because they've only played 1.5 seasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. So I think at the end of let's go back last year. So they got Kyrie, and when they got Kyrie, they obviously didn't have the actual personnel. They didn't have the right team in place to go to that next level. They were the worst. So not only were they a terrible defensive team, but a lot of that was because of their rebounding. They were by far the worst rebounding team in the league when they acquired Kyrie initially. But now that they've picked up Gafford and they've got Washington,
Lively, he's been massive.
Oh my god,
yeah, the rookie.
That is insane. That the amount of, I think he's got the highest plus minus for the Dallas Mavericks this postseason, which is crazy. He's just a rookie. I think I was saying to you before the other day is I think Derek Lively is what Evan Mobley was kind of supposed to be for the Cavs, but Lively's a rookie, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, Mobley's starting to come along, but Lively's just had pretty great start to his career. But even PJ Washington, you go from like one of the worst teams in Charlotte at the trade deadline to now you're potentially and probably, I think, going to win a championship with Dallas. It's got to be one of the wildest stories ever, going from like one of the worst teams to straight up winning a chip, we hope. But
yeah, so going back to Luka, let me read this. Let me read how dominant he's been in the NBA playoffs. So Luka is first in points, first in rebounds, first in assists, steals, triple doubles, 3-pointers made, field goals made, free throws made, clutch assists, and game winners. He's first in all those categories in this NBA playoffs. Now, to me, that probably screams that you're the best player in the league if he's able to win. I'd argue that after this finals, he cemented himself as a bona fide top 3 player in the league. For me, he'd be number 2. I still have Jokic as the best player in the league. But after this finals, I think if Luka can win this, I think you cannot argue he's a top 3 player in the league.
Yeah, for sure. I think like Luka, I think a bit of this like postseason run has been like he's kind of like channeling that like kind of dog in him. He's like talking to the crowd. He's talking all sorts of trash to everyone on the court. Like I think he's got a point to prove this postseason, and he's been doing that so far throughout the whole Western Conference. But him not winning MVP, I honestly reckon he got robbed.
Yeah, I agree.
I think people just gave it to Jokic because they think, oh yeah, Jokic should have got it last year, but it went to Embiid. So I think there was a bit of that. I do feel bad for Luka in that sense, but he's going out there, he's taking step backs, talking to the crowd, talking to the players. Like, I think
it's marketable from the league's perspective as well.
Yeah, for sure. And like the defense the Wolves threw at Dallas, I don't think Boston will be able to hold Dallas to the same like level. Yeah. They've got some great defenders. Yeah, sure. Jaylen Brown's a great defender. Tatum's a good team defender. Derek White as well. Drew Holiday, obviously. But when you've got Kyrie and Luka, I think if I was Boston, it's kind of like playing 2 Nikola Jokic's because they're just that gifted and talented that they can make the right pass. They can score the ball whenever. They just take whatever the defense gives them, and they're always going to find a way to outclass the defense. So if I was Boston, I'd try and force everyone else to be scorers and make them distribute the ball. As weird as that sounds, but how else do you beat them? It's kind of like Jokic, right?
Yeah. And my biggest worry for the Celtics is more their front court. So you've got Porzingis and Al Horford, but who do you have after that? Luke Cornett. And Dallas have been exposing the pick and roll. They've been abusing that pick and roll, and there hasn't really been an answer to guard that. And the only problem that the Celtics have is they don't have enough depth in their front court. And I'm pretty sure in the bubble when Porzingis was playing for the Mavs, he got absolutely picked apart in pick and roll defense. He's not known to be a good pick and roll defender. Luke Cornett was struggling against the Pacers in pick and roll defense, and Al Horford's never really been known to be like a good pick and roll defender as well. Plus he's almost like in his 20th season in the NBA. So for me, that's a worrying sign for Boston. But I do like their front court. I do like their their wings and their guards in terms of what they can throw at Kyrie and Luka. You've got Drew Holiday, probably the best perimeter defender in the league. I think he can. I won't say he's going to stop Luka, but I think he can slow him down.
So do you think they'll put Drew Holiday on Luka? Who are they going to put?
Not like every single possession, but I would say the majority of who Drew Holiday will be guarding would be Luka, just because Drew, he's been guarding like bigger players all regular season. Like he was guarding centers for a stretch of regular season games. And if the Celtics sort of do their research, which obviously they definitely will, Luka struggled a little bit against Lou Dort, whereas he was able to pick apart Jaden McDaniels, and the reason was because of the size advantage. Lou Dort is a very strong defender. Like he is strong, and I think that is what Luka struggled with, whereas with Jaden McDaniels, he was able to like push him around a bit, get through him because he didn't have that large sort of frame.
Well, he just gives up so many fouls as well. Like he's not very smart with his hands. Like he's a great defender, but he gives away so many stupid fouls. And
Yeah.
cost the Wolves some valuable game time that he brings just through like being in foul trouble.
Yeah,
and important
I
games.
think Drew, like he's very, very strong. So I think he can slow down Luka a bit. And then you've got Tatum Brown, they're big bodies, they're long, they're athletic. They'll be able to do some work defensively, but you can't fully rely on them because they've got to take a load on offense. Derek White also isn't a bad option as well in terms of defense. Like he can guard certain positions. He can slow players down a little bit. But for me, I think the two key points is for Dallas to win, they need some of their role players to step up because there'll be games where Luka and Kyrie might slow down a bit. So you need to rely on one of your role players. And I think the biggest key is PJ Washington. I think you need him to score have a 25-point game at least once this series, because last year was Christian Brown. He had a 20-point game that propelled the Nuggets to a win. You had Jordan Poole, who was massive for the Warriors all of that run. So you need one of those role players to step up. Even Pat Connaughton in 2021 was big in one of the games for the Bucks to win. So I think you need that to step up for your role players. Now for the Celtics, I think Jason Tatum, like he's got to really be the aggressor because he gets criticized a lot, and I think he gets so much I think he gets a lot of overhate, but he's made the All NBA first team I think 3 straight years. So him and Luka are the only 2 players I think I saw this morning to make the All NBA first team like three years in a row in the last 4 years or something. So I think Tatum gets a lot of hate, but I think in this playoff run that the Celtics have had, he hasn't really been that aggressor. And to be fair, he doesn't really need to be because he's got such a stacked team, even with Porzingis out. Like you've got Jaylen Brown, you've got Derek White, who's been massive. Drew Holiday's been shooting close to 40% from 3 this playoff. So he hasn't really needed to go big in terms of scoring, but I think in this playoffs for the Celtics to win, for them to get that advantage over the Mavs, he's got to be aggressive. He's got to not rely on just shooting jump shots like he did in 2022. He's got to drive to the lane. He's got to get aggressive. He's got to get to the foul line. And if he can do that and be like the dog that Luka kind of is, I think that's Boston's X factor.
Yeah, well, he just plays so passive the first 3 quarters and then tries to just come alive in the fourth, and he can't really do that, I think.
He's a weird player in the sense that he'll have really quiet games in the past, but then one game he'll just pop off. Like game 7 against Philly, against your Sixers. He had the most points in NBA history in a game 7. He had 51. But then from games 4 to game 6, he struggled in the first half. So I think this series or this finals, Tatum needs to prove he's that dog. Otherwise, he's kind of just going to be known as that weird superstar who's not a top 5 player, but, he gives you that solid like 27, 7 and 4 kind of numbers.
Yeah, I think so for sure. And then what's your prediction for this series? I've got personally Dallas in 6, but I can definitely see it going 7. I really hope the Mavs win this one. I want Luka to get that MVP, that finals MVP. I also want him to get his first ring, and I want Kyrie to get a ring, another one, just to piss off LeBron and the Lakers organization.
Did you see, by the way, that I just saw this morning that the Lakers tried to offer Westbrook and 2 first rounds for Kyrie before Kyrie got traded to Dallas?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the
interesting.
Lakers were actually trying to get Kyrie.
Yeah, wow, okay. Yeah, because LeBron came out as well on his podcast with soon-to-be Laker coach JJ Redick saying, oh, yeah, I'm so annoyed that Kyrie isn't my partner in crime anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, you've got Dallas in 6. I've got Dallas. First of all, I'm just gonna say, if you're not a Celtics fan, you're definitely going for the Mavs because the Celtics,
they've got too many of them. They got 17 championships or 16. Yeah. They got too many.
I personally don't like the Celtics, to be honest. Just not someone I personally like. But getting to my prediction, I've got Dallas in 7. Now that's a big call in the sense that since 2010, we were just discussing before, there hasn't been an NBA Finals Game 7. There's only been 3 Game 7 of the NBA Finals since 2010. So the Lakers Celtics 2010, the Heat Spurs 2013, and the Cavs Warriors 2016. So since 2016, there hasn't been a Game 7 in an NBA Finals, which is crazy. But I'm still saying Dallas in 7, and the reason why is because the Celtics over the last few years, they haven't been great at home in the playoffs, but they have all the added pressure to win just because they've been by far the best team all season. They only lost twice in the playoffs. They're the best record in the league. They've got the best team on paper. They've made 5 conference finals since 2017-18 when Tatum was a rookie, when they played LeBron that year. And yeah, like I said, they've been by far the best team all season. So they have all the pressure to win it, and most experts are picking them to win. Now, I'm saying Dallas because Luka is going to be the best player on the court all series. He's the best player. I wouldn't say by far, but I would say considerably he's the best player. They don't have that added expectation to win straight away because no one really thought Dallas should have made the finals. They've played tougher opponents to get to the finals, so they've sort of been prepared. But I think it'll just come down to Luka, and I've got him as my finals MVP, and I've also got a personal bet on Luka to get finals MVP. So, Luka, if you're listening to this, I'm personally rooting for you. Just keep doing what you've been doing all playoffs, and I will be happy. You will make me and some of our members a lot of money. But yeah, that's our NBA predictions or NBA finals prediction. Celtics and Mavs. I'm really keen for it. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know your predictions. And yeah.